Hey everyone, Christian here, the host of How to Talk Good. Welcome to part 2 of my conversation with Sarah. If you haven't listened to part 1, I encourage you to go back and do so. I just wanted to give a quick forward to this episode. So my guest on this episode requested not be on video, so this episode will be audio only. She also requested that we use only her first name. This episode includes graphic discussions of drug use, suicide, the death of a child, as well as physical and mental abuse and violence. I just wanted to give a warning to anyone listening who may be sensitive to these subjects. We go pretty deep on this episode, and we both get very emotional at times, but there are some laughs and fun stories to be had if you stick around until the end. With that being said, thanks for listening, and let's start the show. And we're back. Alright, so we've regrouped a little bit, and we're ready to continue our conversation. So, Sarah, I don't want to dance around this too much. So we've talked about where you came from, how you grew up, what that was like. Touched a little bit on your relationship with your mom, your dad, and your grandma. If you don't want, I might not even be talking about what you think I'm talking about. If you don't want to talk about this, tell me, and I'll just start the whole thing over and we'll go from there. But, so your mom, when you started living with her, at some point, and I think this is important for people to know, to understand, like, who you are and part of what you've been through. Not too long after you were living with her, you were 16 when you moved in with her, right?
Yeah, I was 16.
And you were 17 when you were in a car accident.
I know what you're talking about, and it actually started with my gallbladder surgery. Because, literally 2 days before my 17th birthday, I had gallbladder surgery where I had to have it removed.
Okay, so it didn't start with the car accident.
No, it started with my gallbladder surgery.
Okay. So you started snorting pills.
Yep. I was addicted to pills for 3 years.
It started right before your 17th birthday?
Yes. So, first of all, at the time, narcotics were not as hard to get as they are now. They were much more easily prescribed. So even before my surgery, I had like 30 Part-10 sent home with me. And my mom was an addict for a long time. We talked about that a little bit beforehand. And I started snorting pills with her. Yeah.
So how did that start? I know this is really tough to talk about, and your mom's come a long way since then, but I think it's really important to your story. So you were taking the pills as prescribed at first.
Yes.
For the pain. And I'm sure it was very painful.
It was extremely painful. If anyone who's ever had any sort of stomach surgery knows, they fill you up with this like gas in order to do the surgery so that they don't like mess up other organs, and it's very painful. It's like I couldn't move for 2 days afterwards, and it was an outpatient surgery. I was only there for 6 hours.
Jeez.
But basically my mom convinced me that snorting them would make them work better, which I guess technically it does make it work faster, but and taking them orally made me kind of sick. So I think it was double-edged in that my mom wanted to help me, but it was messed up the way she did, and also she wanted to snort them, but she didn't want me to judge her while she was doing it, so she convinced me to do it with her, basically, and then I was addicted to pills for 3 years.
And I think that's something that a lot of addicts do. They don't want to be alone in their addiction. Nope. They don't want to feel judged. I'm sure that's something you experienced a lot through the course of your addiction.
Yeah, it's not something you really want to do alone. Whenever we did pills, it was either us together or we were with, her friends or whatever the case may have been. But I very rarely did it alone. In fact, I didn't really start doing it alone until I met you, because for a while I was hiding it from you because I was ashamed.
Right. Now, what did it feel like, do you remember the experience the first time your mom, had you do that with her?
Oh, yeah. It's, and for anybody else out there who is an ex-addict or a recovering addict, I should say, don't know what I'm talking about, but for me, because I specifically was doing Percocets, and Percocets are some of the strongest narcotics you can get. It's very rare now that you'll get prescribed them at all, because of a situation with a doctor that happened in Florida. I won't go into it. You can look it up on Google. But so I was snorting like Perk 15, Perk 30s, 4 of them a day.
Is that a lot?
That is very much a lot. Perk 30s are like the strongest narcotics you can get. And then it moves to morphine.
How quickly did that ramp up for you?
Oh, very. Probably within a couple months. I went from doing 5 and 10s to doing 15s and 30s.
How much of that was pressure from your mom? Because she wanted to do more?
No, a lot of it was because I just got addicted to them so quickly. They're very addictive. Like, you get... I mean, obviously, after a certain point, your body does get addicted to it, but I got very addicted to the way it made me feel. Like, mentally. Like, the head high that I got from it, I got very addicted to. And then also, because I have chronic back problems, even as a teenager, it was bad. So, like, I didn't hurt. And that's not an excuse to snort pills or do drugs. But, everyone, has their own choice in things. But, I did it a lot because of Mom, but also because I got really addicted and I wanted to keep doing it. And, I was doing it for 3 years, and then pills got really hard to get, and then so I was on heroin for 2 months.
So did you realize at the time that was how fucked up of a thing that was for your mom to have you snort pills with her?
I mean, I think I knew it was wrong, but I also wanted to, like, connect with my mom and be around my mom, and she made it seem like it was okay and it wasn't that big of a deal, so...
That's just so...
Yeah, it's not... But you also have to... I'm not trying to defend what she did, because it wasn't right, and it wasn't fair to me. But you also have to remember, at that point, my mom was like 25 years into her pill addiction.
Yeah.
So she wasn't thinking clearly either. My mom did and said a lot of things back then that she would never do or say sober. So...
I know your relationship's better with her now, and that she deeply regrets that.
She does, and she feels she has a lot of regrets over a lot of stuff she did. But
from my perspective, just hearing that, like, there's so many layers to why that's so messed up to me, because for one, you didn't have a connection with your mom for so long. And I'm sure a part of you was, like, screaming for some sort of... any way you could find to connect with her on a deeper level. And that was one of the things that did it. That maybe you didn't realize how bad it was at the time. And, where a mother's supposed to be, like, a guiding hand in that, saying, no, you shouldn't do this, is the other way for her. And to me, that's just... I don't know. So... sad and so far removed from how a mother-daughter relationship is supposed to be, that you went for so long without seeing her or hearing from her, a year and a half after you'd reconnected, and that you wanted so badly to have that connection with her that you would do something like that. There's just so many layers to how crazy that is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and deny that me and my mom should probably go to family therapy together. But yeah, there's a lot of layers to that, and it's not exactly like I 100% knew, like, okay, let me rephrase that. It's not like I didn't know 100% what I was doing. Like, I mean, mostly it was that I just wanted to get closer to my mom and connect with her, but it's not like I was unaware of what I was doing. I mean, I was 17 years old, I wasn't ignorant to the fact that, you're not supposed to snort pills.
Was there a part of you that, like, thought it was cool that you were doing that with your mom? Like, oh, I'm doing drugs, and my mom's so cool. She's cool with it?
I mean, no, not really. I never looked at it that way. It was just... I don't know. I never looked at it that way. I just thought that it was okay because Mom did it. Like, I didn't, like... think I was like cool or whatever. It's just like it was something Mom did and I wanted to be close to Mom and be like her. So
did that make it feel less bad? Like if it was just you probably wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, probably not. It did make me feel less like I was doing something bad, and it was more just something I'm doing with my mom.
Did you ever have any experiences with doing drugs or using drugs before then?
Yeah. I grew up in not such a nice place. A lot of my teenage years were spent in Mullins, and it's a poor city, and it's a rough place to live, and, I mean, I mostly what I did was smoke weed. But, there were a couple times that I did pills, and, not like, I mean... it was probably just like Tylenol 3 and stuff like that,
Right, but you just took them orally.
Yeah. But it was mostly drinking. There was a lot of underage drinking where I grew up. And you know about that, because...
Oh, I've had a lot of my own experiences with underage drinking.
Yeah, but I mean, it was the easiest thing to get.
Yeah.
Alcohol's a lot harder to get than weed or prescribed pills when you're 14 years old, 15 years old.
These days, you're really not a fan of alcohol and it doesn't agree with you or your stomach very well. Were you ever, like, much of a drinker when you were teen years?
Definitely more so in my teen years than now. Like, now I drink maybe once or twice a year. Like, it's a very rare thing for me. But, growing up in a rural city, and there's not a whole lot else to do. And, I'd like to think that we were, if not good kids, we were responsible kids.
Did you ever get drunk? Like, drunk?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But we were at my house, or we were at Brittany's house. Like, we didn't, like, go get drunk in the woods. We would just, steal her dad's, what's that stuff called? That turkey stuff.
Wild turkey?
Wild turkey, yeah. Yeah, I bought a wild turkey, and we would take it, and we would drink out of it, and then we would put apple juice back in it.
Wow.
He figured it out when it started to mold.
Right. Well, I think also the taste probably changed significantly. Yeah. So neither your dad or her dad were cool with you two drinking?
I don't necessarily want to say that they would have been uncool with it, but I don't think they would have been happiest about us drinking, like, liquor.
Right.
Like, I don't know. If
maybe have your first beer.
Yeah, like, if they caught us drinking beer, maybe they'd be like... I mean, I still think we would have got, like, in trouble, but I don't think they would have, like, come down on us like they would have if they caught us drinking liquor. Like,
that had to be kind of a total shock to the system, going from living with your dad, who was more traditional in that sense. Like, if he caught you drinking, obviously he wouldn't want you to do it and would be upset, versus living with your mom, which is like, hey, come snort these perks with me.
And let's drink wine together and, like...
Right. Was that, like, a shock to the system? Like, or did you adjust pretty quickly to that?
I adjusted pretty quickly because I was always a little bit of a rebel with my dad. My dad just didn't know about it. I was a very good kid on the outside, like, but I was like any only child with an independent streak. Like, I was of the mindset, especially, when I was 14, 15, I was going to do what I wanted when I wanted. And if I could get away with it, then I was going to get away with it. And it was easy for me to get away with a lot of stuff. There were many times I sneaked out of the house and never got caught. Or my dad knew more than he let on and just didn't say anything.
Yeah,
one of the two. Who knows? But
after we met and started dating, you hid your addiction from me for a while.
Well, especially because when I met you, I wasn't doing pills anymore. I was on heroin, which I just want to tell that story really quick because it's not a very long story.
Oh yeah, please tell about how. So I'll just sum this up really quickly. You were in a relationship, living with his family. Things weren't working out so well, so you wanted to move out. And
Yes.
then at the job you were at, you met a girl, Melissa.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so Melissa was getting her own place, and she was looking for a roommate, and I was looking for a place to go. So she offered to let me move in with her as long as I paid rent. We worked at the same place. She didn't mind to drive me back and forth. And also, you took me to work sometimes.
So you met Melissa, eventually moved in with her. How did that go? And at what point did you two start doing pills together?
Oh, me and Melissa never did pills together. We just did heroin together.
Oh, so pills were never a thing between you two?
I mean, sometimes, but it was definitely more heroin.
So heroin was more her thing.
Well, also heroin was a lot easier to get at that point because, pills had become really hard to get. Like, extremely hard to get.
Now, did that not become a thing until after you two moved in together?
Yeah, I was really dragging at work one day, and she knew that I had done pills and was doing pills, because I had asked her to find them for me, and, she one day when we were at work, invited me into the back, and she was like, do you want to do a little bit of heroin? It'll help you get through the day, and, I never considered it before.
Was this before you moved in together or after you already?
I think it was after we were already living together.
Okay.
And so I got hooked on heroin. And
you never shot it up, right?
No. I only snorted the powder form, which is how it comes. People liquefy it, and then that's how they shoot it up. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but...
Well, I'm sure most people know that. It's on TV and movies and stuff, so...
Yeah, but, yeah, I only ever snorted it, which is not to say that you should do heroin, and for any reason.
Did you ever watch someone shoot it up when you were living? Okay, so she only snorted it, too.
Yeah, they weren't needle people. We very much just snorted it. But, I was going through withdrawals because you were there for that. And, the week that I was going through withdrawals, 2 of her best friends died from an overdose because that was when, the stuff that was getting cut with fentanyl was starting to get pushed out.
So you got out at the right time.
Yeah, I probably would have died if I'd gotten any with the fentanyl in it, because I was doing such small amounts of heroin anyways, but it takes so little fentanyl to kill you, especially if you've never had it before. Right. So I was very lucky, yeah.
Do you remember how I found out? Because I
don't, because some of that stuff I have blocked out. So I don't necessarily remember everything.
Is some of that period in your life kind of blurry?
Definitely.
Do you think it's the drugs, or do you think it's you blocking out, or some combination of the two?
Probably a combination of both.
So for people that don't know, a lot of times, like with pills and heroin, people think that, it's a downer, like it'll bring you down, but it tends to have a different effect if you snort it. Is that right? It tends to amp you up?
No, that's not true. It just affects... I mean... It does affect you differently from snorting it to shooting it, but they're 2 different kinds of highs. It's not like one makes you up and one makes you down. Like, heroin's going to affect you however it's going to affect you. It's either going to be a downer for you and going to make you, nod out and stuff, or it's going to be like what it was for me, which was it made me hyper alert and very, very active. Like, I was always wanting to, like, clean or go. It was the same thing. It was the same feeling I got when I did pills. Like, it never made me, like, slumped or, like, nodded out or anything like that. Like, I was always very, very active and energetic.
So, from my recollection, it was a slow burn finding out. Because I remember seeing some signs, like finding a cut straw, like in my bedroom, was the first sign before we moved in together. And finding, like, residue of powder and stuff like that. And not to offend you or anything, I'm sure you would agree, you were a pretty big liar back then.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I lied about all kinds of shit back then. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not that person anymore.
Oh, definitely not.
But
you haven't been for quite some time.
Yeah, but I was young and dumb and an addict back then. So, yeah, I lied a lot.
Yeah, and it took me a little while. I don't remember how I found out for sure. But it took me a little while to find out for sure.
I think I ended up just telling you. I don't remember.
I think it was partially Melissa, if I remember, because I didn't, it was a couple months of us dating before I found out for sure. I think it was after we moved in together. And I think, from my recollection, Melissa had heard us fighting about it a lot, and one day she was like, just tell him.
I think so. I do think that's what happened. I don't 100% remember, because it's been so long, and I already have memory problems, you know about this. And I also do block a lot of stuff out, so I'm sure something along that lines did happen. I just genuinely don't remember.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but, to say something positive about Melissa, I don't have a lot of nice things to say about her because of, her being a part of why you continued to be an addict for a while. Maybe not pressuring you, but maybe encouraging you to continue to do it. But if I remember correctly about Melissa, one thing good I have to say about her is she wasn't a liar.
No, she was very much an honest person, and like, if you told her something and you asked her not to tell somebody, she would look at you and be like, if that person comes and asks me, I'm gonna tell them. Like, I'm not gonna.
Right.
Like, she was brutally honest. She didn't mess around with that.
And she didn't hide things about herself either.
No, other than the fact that she was stealing money from me.
Right, yeah, there was that.
But
addict's gonna addict.
But yeah, that if there's one positive trait I can say about Melissa, she was brutally fucking honest. She didn't play around when it came to that stuff. So
she encouraged you to tell me, and I wasn't happy about it, but I loved you and I cared about you and I was deeply in love with you. So for a little while, you continued to use, and I had knowledge of it, but I continued to encourage you and try to get you to go off of it or wean yourself off of it. Do you remember it that way?
Yeah, I do. You definitely encouraged me to get off of it. And I'm proud to say that I think it's been 6 years now that I've been sober. I've been sober since Bubba's death. And that was October 4th of 2016. So
17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, 5-6 years, depending on what time of year it was.
Yeah. So
I'm glad that, I know I wasn't the only factor. I know that took a lot of, deep personal strength, and you had to find it within yourself and want to quit and have the desire to quit. But when I think about the good things I've done and accomplished in my life, one of the things I always think about is helping you get clean. And that really does mean a lot to me, that I could to be able to help you in that way and do some good in that way, like, it's just really meaningful to me.
Yeah, it's something I'll be forever grateful to for you. Because, like, I don't know if I would have gotten clean as soon as I did if it hadn't been for you pushing me to get clean. So, like, thank you.
Of course. And I would do it all over again. I'd continue that struggle for as long as it took.
But, yeah, I've been sober for 5 years, 6 years, I don't know. The last time I did pills was the day before my brother's funeral. He died on the 4th and his funeral was on the 7th or 8th. So...
and it wasn't an easy road for you to quit, and there were several relapses and lots of fallbacks. It wasn't just like, we met and you're like, okay, I'm not an addict anymore. There was a lot of times that you lied to me and hid it from me. And for a long time, I wasn't comfortable you hanging out with Melissa or your mom without me being there, because they would both encourage you to snort pills or heroin with them.
Yeah, that's very true. And it took a year for me totally to get, like, sober. And then I was clean for a year before my brother died.
Yeah.
And then I went off the deep end with my mom when my brother died. And then after that, I've been sober since then.
So, yeah, South Carolina was where his funeral was. So I had to stay home because I couldn't get off work.
Yes.
And you and your mom went to the funeral.
There's a whole story about that, and that it kind of connects to the segue into the next thing that we're probably going to talk about, a specific person.
Yeah. Well, first of all, can you tell me a little bit about your brother and your relationship with him?
Okay, so my brother was 7 years older than me. We had different dads, same mom. His name was David, or Pate Boy. Some people may know him. I doubt anyone who knows him by that name is going to listen to this podcast, but we didn't grow up together. But when I was probably about 20 or 21, I can't remember. It was the last time I talked to him, or the first time I talked to him in a long time, I think it was before you and I had met, is when I was still with my ex at that time, who we won't mention. But I went down for Christmas and to see my grandma, my dad, and my aunt, and me and him talked on the phone a couple days while I was there, and we were on and off contacting each other up until...
I'm sorry for the train. That's quite rude. Train.
Yeah. Up until my grandma's death. And then, as you know, we went down and we actually stayed in his hotel room that night and everything.
Yeah, I got to know him a little bit over that trip.
And
that was 2015?
Yes, that was 2015. And
that's when we went for your grandma's funeral.
Yes, and Christian can attest to this. Even though we didn't grow up together, me and my brother were very much similar. Yeah. We were very much two peas in a pod.
It was an instant connection, even though it had been how many years since y'all had seen each other?
I think the last time I actually physically saw him before that, I think I was 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, the way I remember it, it was like, it didn't seem like that. It just felt like brother and sister hanging out.
Yeah.
You two seemed like very close and very connected, and he had such a big personality.
He was a shining star.
He could light up a room.
Yeah, that's the thing I think that I miss the most about him, is his ability to immediately become the center of attention. Just And it wasn't even that he tried to. He just was naturally just that guy. Like, everybody knew him, and everybody that knew him loved him. And he could fill a room, you know?
And I remember being tired and frustrated. We had some trouble finding a hotel.
Yeah.
But as soon as we got the room and we were hanging out with your brother, like, it changed my mood. Like, he just brightened everything up and got me talking and hanging. And I'm not much of a stranger person.
No.
Or at least I really wasn't then. I'm better at that now and can enjoy connecting with people I don't know easier and better now. But very much of that time I wasn't. And I really felt like I had a good connection with him, and watching you two interact, like, he was just a beautiful person.
He was a beautiful person, and I still don't know 100% what happened. You know, I don't know if I'll ever know 100% what happened. But the official story is on October 4th, which was a Sunday night, my brother hung himself in the apartment of his closet, or in the closet of his apartment, where he was living with his girlfriend and their 2 children. My brother had 4 children, but they had 2 together. So it was pretty shocking to find out, because I had talked to him literally less than 24 hours before that. I talked to him, like, it was late Friday night. It was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning when I spoke to him. And then, because if you remember, I woke up at 4 a.m. on Monday morning, and I rolled over and checked my Facebook and saw a bunch of posts because I called you because you were at work.
Yeah.
And told you about it.
I'm pretty sure I came home.
Yeah. And because I literally bolted up in bed and, like, didn't know why or for what reason. And then, like I said, I rolled over to check the time, and I checked my Facebook, and, like, I couldn't really believe what I was seeing. And then Mom called me, and that's when I knew that it was real. I genuinely don't know. I have theories and stuff, which I won't talk about here, but...
And that was around a year after we'd seen him?
Yeah, it was exactly a year, almost, because my grandmother passed away in August, and then my brother passed away in October. So a year and, like, a couple months. Like a month.
Now, the way I'm remembering it, and I know it's harder for you to remember, but honestly, it's really hard for me to remember too, because I remember how much that broke you.
It was rough, because, try not to cry here. It was rough because me and him had just started to rebuild our relationship, and, you know, at least I like to think we were both looking forward to getting to know each other as adults and being in each other's lives, and that's just not a thing anymore. There's so many things that I've missed out on and he's missed out on, and I mean, he's always, like, with me, but I don't think my life will ever be the same. Like, it's something that I think about a lot, like, a lot more than people probably think I do, because I hide stuff a lot, and I'm very good at it.
Something I feel like you're actively working on.
Yeah, but, it definitely changed me as a person. It wasn't something that I thought I was going to have to deal with at, 22 years old, losing my brother. But no one ever expects it, so... Especially
something like that.
I mean, it's crazy to think about that... Actually, no. Yeah, I'm the same age. No, I think he might have been 29. But I'm, like, 2 years away from how old he was when he passed away. Like...
I know it doesn't fix things or make things better. And I know it wasn't under happy circumstances because we went to South Carolina and ended up hanging out and seeing your brother because your grandmother passed away. But I'm really thankful to get to know him the little bit that I did and that we got to go and share that time with him. I mean, I didn't know him nearly as well as you did, but I'm happy to get to make that connection with him before he left this world, and I'm really happy that you got to have that because I can't imagine. I don't know if it would have been better or worse if you wouldn't have gotten to do that, but I'm just so happy you got to actually see him and hug him and make that connection before he passed.
Yeah, it meant a lot to me. I think about that day a lot. Especially, around this time of year. Especially, like, with the holidays just passed and everything. But,
And I hope that you or anyone listening doesn't think that I'm bringing up anything or saying some of the things I'm saying to be mean or hurtful or bring up painful things just to be painful. I do that because I think it's important to talk about these things. And I think it's important for people to hear the level and the severity of what you've been through and your story. And I think if it can help people in any way, I think it's important. And obviously this is more for you to decide than me to decide. And, before we started, I told you anything you don't want to talk about, you don't have to, but I think it's important to get these things out and to talk about them. So that's why I ask these questions. Do you have any regrets as far as your brother?
My only regret is that I didn't get to know him longer. Really. I mean, excuse me.
You're fine. And if you need a break, just let me know and we'll stop.
But a lot of that has to do with my dad, because my dad hated David, like, a lot. And even though I would ask about him, Dad wouldn't let me see him or talk to him. I think I talked to him once or twice when I was like 7 or 8. And then I didn't talk to him again until I was an adult. And anybody out there who's lost a family member, especially like a brother or sister, you know what I mean. But it's not something that you can ever get back. Like, it's not, you can't get anybody back, but, like, that's a connection you can never get back. And, like, especially with us just starting to try to rebuild our relationship as brother and sister, like, that's the thing I regret the most, is not getting to know him more and spend more time with him.
Well, I understand that regret, but I want you to know that from my perspective, you put in a lot of effort to get to know him and make that connection with him. And you did pretty much everything you could, given, that you two live states away. You stay in frequent contact, and I think you two talked almost every day, or at least multiple times a week, if not over the phone, then messages.
Yeah, we talked on Messenger a lot, like.
So I understand why you feel that way and why you have regrets, but I don't think you have anything to regret as far as that goes. A big part of why you missed out on the younger years and so much of that connecting with your brother is totally outside of your control and you're not responsible for. And I hope you know that.
I do. It still hurts, especially as an adult when you look back and realize what happened. It's harder to deal with.
And I think when we lose someone we love, it has to hurt. It's supposed to hurt. I mean, that doesn't sound happy. That doesn't sound cheerful, but the hurt tells you how much they meant to you. And if it didn't hurt, then there's numbness there that you shouldn't have. So it's hard to say and it's hard to hear, but it's good that it hurt the way it did.
Yeah, I loved him a lot.
And it's good that you developed enough of a relationship and got to know each other enough that it did hurt that way. Because if you didn't get to know him like that and he passed and there was just I feel like there would be a sort of emptiness there of I should feel worse, but I can't because I didn't know him. So, all things considered, I mean, I can't say I'm not you, but I think that's better than missing out on that connection. Having that connection you had and losing it and it hurting is probably way better than not having it.
What is it that Shakespeare said? It's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. So,
yeah.
I am grateful for the time that we got together. I just wish I had more time.
And I think that's probably true for everyone who's lost someone they love. It never is enough time.
No, and that hurt I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I mean, it comes and goes just like anything, but that's the thing about grief is it never goes away completely. It will never go away completely.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But it gets easier to manage, I should say. Things start to get back to normal in a sense. I mean, you're always going to miss that person, but life goes on.
It's like a deep wound. As the days go on and the weeks go on, the wound starts to heal and starts to hurt a little bit less. Maybe in a couple months it'll be as healed as it can get, but there'll always be that scar there.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there something... What do you feel like your brother taught you in the time that you had together? Is there something meaningful that you took away from your relationship that you began to build with him?
Just to always, I don't know. It's not so much that he taught me anything. It's just that, his presence always made me feel, happy and loved. And I think that, I take from that, to try and make other people feel the way that he made people feel.
That's a really good lesson.
He just, like you said, he was so good at connecting with people and making people feel welcome and wanted and around. And that's something I lacked a lot in my life. So I think my goal is to just always make people feel the way he made them feel.
I think you do that. And I think you've come a long way at that. And I think there was a big difference between you before you spent time with your brother and after. He really did have an impact on you in a positive way.
That's my Bubba. I'll miss him forever.
So, just to, like I said before, not to make things painful because they're painful, but just to fully explain the severity behind the situation. So your grandma passed. Almost a year later, your brother passed.
Yes.
And then it goes even further than that with the mother of one of his children.
Yeah.
Didn't she commit suicide?
Yes, his youngest daughter. I think it was October, and some people think that it relates to her death, but I don't. But his youngest daughter's mother was at a friend's house while he was at work, and she asked her friend if she would watch the baby while she grabbed a shower, and her friend's husband was like police or military or something, and she took one of his pistols and went in the shower and shot herself in the head. So I think that did affect David a lot, because I feel like she was the one person he couldn't save, because she was like a meth addict and depressed and stuff, and so some people think that his suicide has something to do with her death. I don't. I think David cared more about his children than that. But yeah, that happened like probably about a month or so, probably after Nana died, because Mom told me about it.
And then I think about that sometimes, and it takes me to a pretty dark place when I think about that. When I think about that child, and I hope she never finds out. It's tough to say because, in many ways, children deserve to learn the truth, but there's a big part of me that hopes that she never finds out that both of her parents, committed suicide.
I mean,
that really fucks with me and messes with my head when I think about that.
I mean, I don't know that they'll ever tell her that it was suicide, but I mean, they're definitely gonna tell her who her dad was. I can't speak about who her mom was. Her mom is the one who has, the girl's parents is the one who has the daughter, as far as I know of last time that I heard anything about her.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm sure that it'll either be one of those situations where she never knows anything, or it'll be one of those situations where, well, Mommy and Daddy are in heaven, and, sort of thing.
Right.
So,
I just hope that she doesn't learn the full truth, or what's perceived to be the truth behind their deaths.
At least not until she's an adult.
Right.
But
so when you got this news, and you and your mom went on a road trip to the funeral, you relapsed, and was your mom also trying to get clean at that time and relapsed as well?
Yeah, I don't know if Mom was trying to get clean at the time. I don't really remember. I think she was, but yeah, we both relapsed when we heard about David's death.
And
so,
what did that look like?
Messy.
I imagine.
That's a word for it. I mean, how do I describe what it feels like to lose your brother, and the only way is to numb the pain is to get as high as you possibly can? I mean, that was the only... To me, at that time, that was the only solution to making the pain go away.
And I'm sure you and your mom kind of fed off of each other in that feeling.
Oh, it definitely. That's something that Mom still struggles with, is David's death. I mean, and not in just, like, a grief way. Like, that's something that I think, worsened her PTSD, and, like, I think she has nightmares about it, and so it was very rough on both of us.
You seem to have come a lot further with accepting it than she has.
I also am not his mom.
Right. That's different. Her connection was longer.
Yeah.
Her connection with him lasted longer.
Yeah. So it wrecked both of us, but I think it was a lot harder on Mom, especially considering that I think all of her siblings except for one brother are dead, and she had 6 brothers and sisters. So, and both, her dad, her stepdad, and her mom are also all dead. So, I think I think for Mom it was just much, much harder than it was for me. I mean, it was extremely difficult for me too, but I can't imagine how Mom felt. Like, that was her firstborn child.
Neither of us are parents. We don't have kids, so I imagine until that happens, we won't be able to understand exactly how that feels.
Yeah, and I have lots of nieces and nephews that I would quite literally go to war for, and I still can't imagine, like, what it would be like to lose a child. Like, I would be heartbroken, but I can't imagine, like, how, their parents would feel. I can't imagine that.
Well, I think, there's a particular reason, obviously, Sarah wanted an opportunity, and I wanted to give her the opportunity and get a chance to sit down and talk with her about her life thus far and the struggle she's been through, and I feel like it could really help people to hear these things. But I think there's one story of your life in particular that we've been leading up to in this that you really have been wanting to talk about and get out there and tell your story on. And that's you're a survivor of domestic abuse, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
How would you put it in your own words? Because I don't want to define that for you. That's very personal to you.
I mean, I would definitely say I'm a survivor of domestic abuse, but I think some of the things he did were worse than domestic abuse. So.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, we'll tell the story in full, but I mean, he spiritually killed me, for sure. But he quite literally tried to kill me like twice. So, I guess I should start from the beginning because I think it's important to explain how we got to that point and what happened and everything. So
we were dating for how long at this point? 4 years?
We met in 2014 and my brother died in 2016. So we had been dating for 2 years at that point.
When did you meet the person who went on?
His name's Jacob Sheriff. He's a piece of shit. Don't ever speak to him. He's a domestic abuser. I'm not afraid to say his name. I don't give a shit. I hope that as many people hear his name as possible to stay the fuck away from him.
What year did you meet him?
It was late 2016, early 2017. Because what happened, and I'm not proud of this, but when I went home for my brother's funeral, again, I was You know, and it's not an excuse, but I was fucked up on pills, so I wasn't thinking properly. And I met up with an old friend, and we didn't have sex or anything, but I cheated on you. And when I got back home and we talked about it and I told you, we decided to try an open relationship to see if that would help things.
Now, I am really unhappy with myself and how I handled the situation at the time, and I hope you know how deeply I regret how I handled the situation. I was just so hurt to learn that you cheated on me, and it felt like such a betrayal, especially given everything we'd been through. Not only was I learning that you cheated on me, I was learning that you relapsed. It fucked me up, and I really wish I would have been more understanding and would have understood that you just lost your brother. Like, this is not about me, and I wish I wouldn't have taken it the way I did, and made a really rash and stupid decision. I don't know what was going on this was years ago now, and I feel like I've come a long way and grown a lot since then. I don't know what was going on in my mind that felt like we either have to break up or be in an open relationship. But I don't know why it hurt me so much, given everything you've been through and knowing why that happened. But it destroyed me to hear that you cheated on me. And I felt like something had to change for me to continue in the relationship.
Yeah.
So we talked about having an open relationship and trying to stay together, but also see other people. And now looking back, I think I was careless. It feels like I was heartless. Like, how could I hold that against you so much, knowing what you had been through? I wish I would have been more compassionate towards you and not taking it so hard and not taking it to heart. And I'm so sorry.
I mean, I don't think that you have to apologize to me. I hurt you, and that's real. Like, that's not, I made you feel probably less than. And you didn't deserve that either. So, it's okay.
Thank you. Thank you for forgiving me.
I mean, it's not like either one of us were exactly in a good place at that point.
No, we weren't.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
I bought you a Coke.
I know.
So we started an open relationship.
Yes, and
go ahead.
I was working at, we had moved from your mom's place to an apartment. I won't say where. And I was working at Circle K.
A gas station, for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, it's a gas station. And Jacob walked in one night, started flirting with me. And that's how I met him. And, I don't even know where to begin with that piece of fucking garbage. I mean, we started dating, and I don't know, we were probably about 3 months in.
What? How long? Because at first, me and you were a main relationship, and he was a side relationship for you. How long of knowing him did it take for that to change and for us to break up?
Probably about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
It wasn't very long. Because I felt like he was giving me what I wanted when you weren't.
Now, to And that wasn't all. I can't put all that on you because at the time I was working a full-time job, also running a small business at the same time. I was not giving our relationship the care and attention that it deserved. And you felt, I mean, I could feel that you felt a little unloved and a little uncared for and a little unwanted because I was spending so much of my attention elsewhere. From my perspective, I was looking at it like I'm trying to work and trying to hustle to give us a better life. But I definitely neglected you in that time. And that hurts to think about that now too. And I'm sorry for that. And we weren't as good at communication as we are now.
No, we've grown a lot since then. Yeah. Y'all have to remember, we're talking about 6-7 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Like, we've grown a lot as people, I'd like to think, anyways.
I definitely think we have.
Excuse me.
So that's my perspective on it. So it didn't necessarily come as a shock to me that we ended our relationship and you started dating him.
Yeah. So for a while everything was good.
When you and him started officially dating.
Started officially dating, and obviously there's probably going to be trigger warnings and all that on this before anyone starts watching or whatever, but
anyone sensitive to discussions of domestic violence and abuse and mental abuse probably skip past this part.
Yeah. It's an important message, and if you feel like you can listen to it, I hope you will, but it does get fairly graphic, and I don't want anyone to have to suffer through that. So, but, so everything was fine and dandy and whatnot, except for when I went to the mental hospital.
We can talk about that if you want to.
I was just in a very bad place and I threatened to kill myself at work, and so you called the police and I went and had a 72-hour no slip sock stay.
Yeah.
But we were probably about 3 months in. Everything had been good up to that point. I mean, I'm sure there was some manipulation going on even at that point, but I just didn't notice it at the time. And then he hit me the first time. And I don't know, I should have had you kick him out right then and there, because fun side fact, we were living together still at the time.
Right. Sarah didn't have anywhere else to go, and I, couldn't bring myself to leave her high and dry. So there was a spare bedroom that I allowed her to live in, and I did not want him living there, but I didn't have the legal right to remove him because Sarah was also on the lease. So it was just a situation that we were in at the time.
Yeah, and I should have had you kick him out then, but I didn't.
Do you remember what the fight was about?
No.
Probably something stupid and trivial.
Most likely. That's usually what pissed him off the most.
Now, early on, I remember some very serious red flags of, like, him not wanting you to even be able to talk to me, or if me and you tried to talk, he would, like, sneak out of the room and try to listen in on our conversations. Yes. And
absolutely. He hated me talking to you. Even if me and you were fighting, he didn't want me talking to you.
Right.
And I shouldn't... I was too emotionally high at the time to see it. Between living there with you and dealing with a new relationship. But so he hit me for the first time. And, I mean, it just escalated from there. I mean, I'm trying to remember the, sequence of events of things that happened. So we were living in the apartment, and then you left, and we ended up staying until the lease was up.
Yes.
We had a dog at the time. His name was Echo. So during that time, he didn't hit me very much, because even any time that, like, he would play fight with me, like, Echo would get really protective. But, you know, he'd hit Echo too, so. But it started to get really bad when we got homeless. Because after we left the apartment, we started living in a motel. And, that's when the abuse really started, because that's when he would force me to go out and have sex with men for money to pay the rent, and then when I would get home, he would beat me because I was a slut and a whore.
So he wanted you to make money, so he was willing to do whatever it took to have you go sell your body.
Yep.
But then out of control or jealousy or some sick part of his brain, he would punish you for that when you got home.
Yes. He would also punish me if I didn't want to do it. He would hit me if I didn't ask my dad for money. He would hit me if I didn't ask you for money. I had to basically take care of everything. Like, it was my responsibility to make sure everything was taken care of. However that meant. I mean, we stole from people, and, you know, he would threaten to, like, beat me or kill me if I ever told anyone about it.
And through everything you've been through and, you know, whatever negative stuff you've done in your life, you have never been a thief.
No.
So that had to have been really tough for you to wrap your head around.
Yeah, the only time that I had ever stolen prior to that is when me and my mom would literally have to steal food so that we could eat. That's the only time I've ever stolen. I never had stolen, like, money or other stuff like that up until that point. And I mean, there were a couple times when we were living in that motel that, like, things got so bad that he almost killed me. There was one night when I was getting ready to go out, and he was arguing with me about it because he didn't want me to go, but he wanted money, and I was like, well, what else do you want me to do, because I can't ask anybody for any money. And so he came in the bathroom and slapped me so hard that it knocked me down. And then started breaking all my makeup, like, class makeup bottles and shit. And then started, like, dragging me across it. And he got me into the, like, little main room where the bed and stuff is. And he was pinning me down, choking me. And if, like, basically, I got one of my hands free and was able to punch him in his ribs, which he has broken ribs on one side, and so he let go of me because he literally couldn't breathe. But, and I know I talk about this very detached. If I don't, I can't talk about it. Yeah. So, for any of you, those that are listening, like, if I don't sound tore up about it, it's because if I don't detach myself from it, I couldn't even continue to speak right now.
Do you have to think about it or talk about it as if you were an outsider looking into the situation?
Yeah, I do. Because if I put myself actually in the situation, then I start to have flashbacks. And that isn't productive for anybody. So that went on for a while. And, you know, the physical stuff is bad enough, but couple it with the manipulation and the mental abuse. I mean, every day I felt like I was lower than dirt. And no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough for him.
Now, did you feel this way because of what he projected, or did he say things to you to make you feel this way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I was a fat whore, I was a bitch, I was a slut, I was a failure, I wasn't good for anything, I was dirt on the bottom of his boot, as he put it one time.
Jesus.
I mean, anything and everything that you could think of that a person could say to hurt another person, he probably said it to me. I mean, anything he could do to make me feel low and like no one else would ever want me. You know, and if you're already in that deep, you know, that is another red flag. Like, I mean, if for some reason they haven't been hitting you at this point, that's a red flag of mental abuse. Like, they always are putting you down. They never want to say anything good about you unless you're doing something that pleases them.
Or unless you're threatening to leave.
Yeah. So after we couldn't stay there anymore because we couldn't get rent, we moved in with some friends. My friends, not his.
Well, if I remember correctly, there was an issue with work. He didn't really want to work, but expected you to work, but would get jealous or think that you were cheating on him when you did go to work?
Yeah, so if we couldn't get a job together, then he wanted me to go work. And I actually at one point worked at a McDonald's that wasn't too far from where we were staying. Every half hour he would walk up to my work to see what I was doing.
Jesus.
And it's a 15-minute walk. So literally he would walk there, walk back, wait like 10 or 20 minutes, and then turn around and come back. I was not allowed to be alone. I never got to go anywhere alone. I couldn't take a shit by myself. Like,
really?
I was not allowed to be alone for any reason. Unless he had a warrant out. And then was the only one who was allowed to leave.
Was there ever a point, I know it's tough because of how abusers get into your brain and convince you that you're not good enough for anyone else. They're the only ones that'll love you. You need them. But was there ever a point where you recognized, oh, this is a problem? And at what point was that?
I mean, I think I knew pretty soon that there was a problem. But I think by the time I decided that I wanted to do something about it, it was a little too late. And by that point, I think I was afraid to leave. And I would think I was embarrassed too. Because being with an abuser, part of the reason that's so effective is because they cut you off from everybody. And then they make you feel like if you do try to reach out for help, that no one's going to help you. And that's not true. People will help you. But they make you feel like they're the only person that you can come to for any reason. And that's why so many people, you know, in my opinion, I don't want to speak on the behalf of other survivors, but I think that's why so many people stay so long, because they don't know how to leave. And a lot of times it's unsafe to leave. You know, especially with people who have kids. It's much harder. And it's hard to know that you're going to be safe. Because it feels like they always just know how to find you, no matter what.
And, did he do the classic abuser thing of when you try to leave and he realized he went too far, apologize and tell you it would never happen again?
Or threaten to kill himself if I left? Yes. Absolutely, he would do that. 100%.
Now, were you so in the grasp and in the depths of his manipulation that you fell for it? You believed it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's hard not to when you see somebody who is always just angry and violent towards you break down like that. It makes it very believable. Because you're like, oh, they're showing their real emotions and they want to get better. And you know me, I'm one of those people who I will help somebody until it kills me.
And you always look to find the best in people.
And I think that's another big reason why I stayed so long, was because I thought there was a good person in there. But
yeah. So what happened after you left the motel? You stayed with some friends.
We stayed with some friends, and it became impossible to keep a job because he would either stalk me at my work while I was there the whole time, so I would get in trouble and get fired, because obviously that's not, like, appropriate.
How would that happen?
Because he would literally come up there all the time, and, like, if he saw me talking to, like, anybody, he would get mad and, like, come in and, like, start trouble and stuff, like...
So he'd actually talk to the people at the jobs you were trying to work?
He would try to sometimes, yes. And he was just very, like, aggressive all the time towards everyone, besides, like, certain individuals. So we were living in the apartment with some friends, and I mean, I don't know what else to say about it other than the whole entire time was just very abusive, and, like, I mean, he just beat me every day. He literally just would beat on me because it was something for him to do. And I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this, and I still might have you cut it out, but I want to see how it feels. So, he raped me a lot. It comes with the territory of being a domestic abuse survivor.
Did you recognize it as rape at the time?
Oh, yeah, because it would happen when I didn't want it to happen. And it was every day. A lot of times. And I ended up getting pregnant. And I ended up having to be on bed rest because I have some issues that I won't go into here. And he came home one day and he was extremely pissed off. And he wanted me to make him food, and I told him that I wasn't going to get up. And so he pulled me off the couch and kicked me until I miscarried. And
Did he know that's what he was doing?
Oh, he knew.
Jesus Christ.
He 100% knew. And, I think that's the thing that I struggle with the most from our relationship. Because even though he's a piece of shit and, he deserves to be in jail, that baby didn't deserve to die. And I'm pro-choice, and, not to put anybody down for the choices they made, but I would have wanted that child, regardless of the situation in which it came about.
Right.
Because I've wanted to be a mom for a long time. And, so out of everything, that's the thing that I think about the most.
And, it's interesting because you're pretty open about, the abuse that you endured, but that's probably the thing about it that you talk about the least, even though it's the thing you think about the most.
Yeah.
Is it just because it's so hard to talk about?
It's really hard to talk about. I've gone this far, I might as well. I have issues getting pregnant. It's not easy for me. To be honest with you, I'm not even really sure. I mean, other than the fact that, he was raping me basically every day, I'm not even really sure how he got me pregnant. Like, I have a lot of issues. So I think it's the thing that's affected me the most because I've wanted to be a mom since I was like 16 years old. And I think I just think about that baby all the time.
Do you feel like he robbed you of your chance to be a mother?
Can we take a break?
Yeah, we can take a break. All right, we're going to stop there and take a break. All right, we're back. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Do you remember where you left off?
Yeah, you had asked me if you thought it had robbed my chance at motherhood. I hope not.
Right, and I'm not saying that, forever, if it did. I just meant at the time, and maybe sometimes still now, do you feel like he robbed you of that?
Absolutely. I mean, how do I explain something like that to you? Not to be rude. Not saying that men don't go through the loss of their child or whatever, but I don't know how to explain how that felt other than like he crushed my spirit. What was left anyways.
I don't claim to ever be able to understand that or how that would feel.
And I want to be transparent here, and I considered not telling this part of the story, but I think it's important that I do because I want the point of this to be to help people who may be in the same situation or whatever the case may be. But I stayed with him after that. I shouldn't have, but I didn't know what else to do at that point, and he had me so convinced that no one else would want to help me at that point that I just believed him. And it got to a point where we were living somewhere else. And this is skipping forward ahead a little bit. But we were living with some of his friends in Section 8 housing. And I was taking an 1.5-hour bus ride to go work 12-hour shifts every night to support us and to basically support them too. Because I was working at Mobia at the time and I was making like $750 a week, and within 2 days it'd be gone.
And that's a warehouse.
Yes, it's a car parts company.
Not easy work.
No. And you only get one 20-minute break in a whole 12-hour shift. So, or 10-hour shifts, sorry, it was 10-hour shifts. And one evening I was getting ready to go to work because I worked from, what was it? Yeah, I worked from 10 to 6 a.m. And, or no, 9 to 6 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. It doesn't really matter. But,
I just, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to say that, for someone who's experienced so much darkness in your life, you've brought so much light to mine.
You're gonna make me cry.
I'm sorry. I just hope you know that through everything you still have this radiance about you that lights up a room much like your brother. And you've brought so much of that into my life.
That means a lot to me.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
But so I worked every single night, and I would have to come home and try to sleep through 2 children screaming because their parents were addicts. And
Can I get you a tissue or anything?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
And didn't take care of their kids. So I would try to sleep, and then whatever little bit of time I would have before work, he would just yell at me the whole time about not spending enough time with him. So one night I decided that I had fucking enough. And I made sure I had the wallet with my pay card in it. I had my work shoes, my tennis shoes, my backpack, my wallet, and the clothes on my back, and my phone. And I went to work, and I never went back because I called you.
Do you remember the events, like how that transpired?
Yes, I was at work, and I still had your old number. I remembered your number. And a friend of mine, or a coworker of mine, was nice enough to let me use his Wi-Fi to get a hold of you.
I don't know if I ever told you this or not, but it had been how long since we talked at that point? Because at some point he made you block me, and probably like 4 months since 4
or 5 months
since we'd even spoken.
Yes.
But I specifically did not change my number in case you ever needed to reach out to me, because I knew the situation you were in, and I knew that last message I got from you when you blocked me was not you.
No. He forced me to say a lot of that stuff. But a coworker let me use their hotspot to text you off a texting app. And I had explained to you that I just needed help to get away from him. In less than an hour, you were at my work.
As soon as I got that message, I started getting dressed and I came.
You were still in your FedEx truck, actually, if you don't remember.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were. You were in your work truck.
Was I?
Yeah, because I remember.
Oh, no. My personal vehicle was broken down at that point. Right. I was home from work, but they were letting me use my FedEx truck to drive back and forth.
That's right.
So I came to pick you up in a cargo van.
Yes.
But yeah, as soon as you messaged me, I was like, got dressed and came.
Yeah.
I didn't hesitate even a little bit. I was like, I don't care. I mean, I have roommates. I didn't talk to them about it. I was like, I don't care. I need to get her out of the situation.
Yeah. And so you came and got me, and we talked for a while, and I basically went back in and told them I had some family emergency or something. I didn't want to lose my job, but at that point I didn't really care because I know that he would have went and looked for me there.
I didn't care either at that point. I didn't want to push that on you. You need to do whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. And if he knew he could find you there, it's probably for the best that you didn't go back.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I did end up talking to him one more time after that. But it's hard to explain if you haven't been through it, but they are so good at getting in your head and manipulating you and making you feel and think what they want you to feel and think. And the very last time I ever spoke to him, I told him, because he was threatening to kill himself, so I told him that I called the cops and told him where he was, and he called me a stupid bitch and hung up on me. Because he had a warrant out for his arrest. There were several times after that he did try to contact me. He found me, because you and I weren't dating at the time, and I was on, a couple months after that, I was on Meet Me. He found me on there.
We did eventually end up dating again, yes. But we were kind of taking it slow and not wanting to rush into it, which I think was wise, and I think was good that we did that.
Yeah.
You were staying with a mutual friend, but you were safe and you were away from him.
Yes.
But we were like going on dates and hanging out
yes.
and experimenting with that and seeing where it could go.
Yes.
But we did eventually end up getting back together.
Yeah. But he found me on Meet Me. Most recent, well, I guess it's not really been recently because it's been almost probably 3 years at this point, I made a TikTok. And I don't post videos or anything. I literally just have an account to be on TikTok. And somehow he found me on my TikTok, which doesn't have my real name or anything like that.
Maybe link to your email address or something.
Possibly, but, so that's the saga of, I mean, obviously there's some details that got left out and stuff, but.
If there's, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yeah.
If there's a message, that you could pass on to any current or prior survivors of abuse or people who are currently being abused, is there something you'd like to say to them or something that you'd like to pass on based on what you've been through?
Don't let them believe, or don't let them get in your head and make you believe everything that they say to you. People will help if you reach out. Not everyone's just gonna forget about you. To my fellow survivors, we fucking made it. And to anybody who may be going through it, do what you can to stay safe and get out when you can. And know that people will be there for you to help you. No matter what. Even if you have to go to a shelter or something, somebody will help you. And don't ever, ever give up.
And don't let them, I haven't been through it in the way that you have, but don't ever let them make you believe that you can't do better, or that you deserve the treatment, or that no one else will put up with you, or any of that bullshit.
Yeah, someone will put up with your bullshit. Someone will love you for who you are and not treat you any less than you deserve. Just stay safe, my loves. And if you're going through it now, do what you can. And anybody who hasn't been in an abusive relationship or hasn't experienced it, please look out for the red flags. Look them up, because narcissistic manipulators are some of the best at their game. And they will do anything and everything they can to get you. So please just look out for the signs. And like I said, never give up, and know that there is a light on the other side of the tunnel. And there is somebody waiting for you that is not going to treat you that way. Whether it be friends or family or another partner, somebody is waiting to love you.
I think that's really powerful for people going through that or have been through that to hear.
It's the only thing that I know after that is just to keep going. And that's all you can really do. And to heal yourself, to go through the journey to heal yourself from that, because you have to learn to love yourself again.
Something that I want to leave people with, is that I sometimes feel like a lot of times, we look, and one of my motivations for wanting to do this podcast, is I feel like a lot of times people look down on others without knowing their story or understanding their past or understanding their struggles or what they've been through. Because we as humans are really good at hiding our hurt and keeping it hidden, keeping it inside, and sometimes even hiding it from ourselves. So before you judge someone else, think about what they might have been through. If someone's a dick to you at the grocery store, or cashier is rude to you, someone gives you the finger while driving, think about that there's a whole life and a whole story behind that person. It's not all about you. It's not all about that one interaction you had with them. Who knows what they're going through right now? Who knows what their day has been like? Who knows what their life has been like? So before you pass judgment on other people, think about that there's a story behind that. There's a story behind why everyone is the way they are. And I feel like a lot of times people who are well off in their life, good jobs, stable family life, all that jazz, can find it easier to look down on people who don't have that. Stories like this explain why that doesn't happen for everyone the same way it has for you. I'm not saying it can't or that it won't. I believe that you will have that and your life will turn around and get better. I fully believe that with all my heart.
Thank you.
But there's a reason why it wasn't as easy for them as it was for you. So that's what I'd like to leave people with on this. Now, before we wrap this up, because a lot of this has been pretty heavy and pretty dark, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about the light that you've had in your life and the good things that you've experienced. Because as dark as many parts of your life have been, it's not all darkness, right?
Yeah. I mean, I struggle a lot, and it's hard, but I do have, people in my life that make it worth it. You being one of them. My mom, my stepdad, definitely my boyfriend, who has been so wonderful throughout getting to understand how I am and why I am the way I am. Just Brittany. I have a lot of good people who love me, and I'm very blessed to have that. So
when I think about my time with you, I mean, as a couple and as friends, there were some tough times. I mean, they're not insignificant, but there's so many good times. And you brought so much light to my life. And when I think about our relationship and our history together, I think about how much we laughed and how much we giggled at the dumbest things and the play fights and you tickling me even though I hated it. And I think about traveling to magic tournaments together. I think about watching dinner or eating breakfast and watching Good Mythical Morning together and having all of the TV shows that we liked that we would watch together and having all these wonderful experiences together, that every experience I had with you was enhanced because you were there.
Well, thank you. I definitely could say the same. Before we go, do you want me to tell one of my favorite stories about our relationship?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so we hadn't been dating very long at this point. I think we'd only been together maybe a year or so. And there was a tournament in Louisville, Kentucky.
A Magic the Gathering tournament.
A Magic the Gathering tournament, yes, indeed. It was a con sealed, I believe.
Yeah, Cons of Tarkir sealed.
Yes.
This would have been 2015, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
About a year or so after we started dating.
And the tournament started at 10 a.m. Well, we woke up late and didn't get up until like 9. It was an hour and a half drive from where we lived to Louisville. Y'all, when I tell you this man went 90 miles an hour the whole fucking way there, just so we wouldn't be late for a Magic tournament. Not knowing if we would have gas money to get back, by the way.
That's the thing. We had enough money to pay for the event. Not necessarily enough gas money to get back. So we went with the expectation that the cards we would open because this is an event where you open packs of cards, build decks out of them, and play against other people with them, with the expectation or the hope that we'd make enough money from the cards we open to sell them to the store and have gas money to make it home.
Yes. And so back in the day, for a little while, they didn't do this for very long, but for a while at sealed and draft events, you had to pass your deck to the next person. Like, all the cards that you got, you had to write down on a piece of paper what you got, and then you had to pass it to the person on your left.
This was to prevent people from cheating, slipping cards into their card pool that they opened that they actually didn't open. So you'd open your packs and basically show them to the person across from you and write everything down, and then pass those packs to the person across from you.
No, it was you pass them to the left.
Right. They change the direction every time.
Yeah, that's in my case it was to the left.
Right.
It didn't last very long. We only did that for like 6 months or a year or something. But we got extremely lucky, and the person next to me had pulled a foiled polluted Delta. At the time, that was the most expensive card in the set almost.
Right. I think it was $100 or $80.
It was $150 resale, and we got $90 for it at the shop.
Okay, yeah.
And that basically was our lunch money and gas money home. And it was insane because if we hadn't got something like that, we probably would have had to call his mom or something embarrassing.
I don't, I think I'm remembering this correctly. The card didn't fit for the deck that you built. So we ended up, right after we built our decks, selling the card.
Yes.
And then as soon as we had a break, we bought Firehouse subs.
Yes.
It was both of our times trying Firehouse subs.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was just because of the experience or the thrill or everything that led up to that moment. It's one of the best meals I've ever had.
Yeah, it was a great day. Yeah, there's nothing quite like getting on the highway at 9 o'clock in the morning on an adrenaline rush, not knowing if you're going to be able to make it back home, and then getting to a tournament. And any of my MTG nerds out there that watch this or listen to this will understand. Any
gamers will understand.
Yeah, just that thrill of like, I don't know if I'm going to make it home, but holy shit, I'm going to do this. And yeah, it was an experience, and anybody who was around Magic that time will understand how crazy it is that I got handed a fucking foil polluted Delta of all things.
Such a great set too.
Oh my god. That's when I got into Magic was cons, so that set will always hold a special place in my heart. The only other thing I want to say before we go, and of course this is again Magic related, and it was us together, when we went to the GP in Louisville, where I got to meet Reed Duke.
Right,
was fucking awesome.
A professional Magic player, for those who don't know.
And my favorite Magic player at the time, and I was sitting in the cafeteria eating lunch. I was eating a burger because I think I had lost my match or something, and you and Garrett were still playing. And you came up to me and were like, look behind you. And I'm like, who's behind me? And I look, and here's basically all the fucking Channel Fireball sitting less than 10 feet from me. And again, Magic nerds will know what I'm talking about, but
you fangirled so hard.
So hard. So fucking hard. And just for going to the GP, you got a playmat for entering the competition. So I walked over to Reed Duke and said, excuse me, Mr. Duke, would you sign my playmat for me? And he was so nice about it. He gave me a hug and everything. It was great. It was one of the best days of my life. So to end on a positive note, thank you for bringing Magic into my life, because it's afforded me a lot of very cool opportunities and experiences.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that with me. So many good memories and good times. Yes. And how crazy we were to do stuff like that. My God. But how dedicated we were and how much fun it was. And sharing that with you made it so much more meaningful. I'm not saying it wouldn't have meant similar if it was with a friend, but sharing that with you meant so much. And, getting you into Magic and experiencing that together, discovering Good Mythical Morning together, Game of Thrones, so many things that we enjoyed together. All right, so one thing that's a little bit new before we leave, I want to start asking my guests give a recommendation. Anything you're reading, watching, doing right now that you'd recommend to other people?
Well, you know me. I don't really change too much. I've been playing this really cool game on Game Pass on the Xbox called Lake. It's pretty cool. It's just a little indie game where you go around and deliver mail for your dad in this town, and it's where you grew up and you haven't been back in 20 years, and you just kind of get to know everybody, and it's just a cool little indie game. Also, I play modded Stardew. I don't stream or anything, but if you're interested in that, Nexus Mods has a super awesome Stardew Valley mod. I mostly watch King of the Hill though.
Right.
I don't know what else you want me to say. I've literally been watching King of the Hill for the past 2 weeks.
I am willing to say that is King of the Hill is the greatest adult animated TV show of all time.
Yeah, the only other show that compares for me is Avatar: The Last Airbender, but they're so wildly different, it's hard to compare them. They're both top-tier shows, but for very different reasons.
BoJack Horseman for another different reason. Although, to me, it doesn't compare to King of the Hill. But...
No. By the way, if you haven't watched BoJack Horseman, go watch it. It's fucking amazing.
Tread lightly.
Yeah, it definitely gets deep. It even, to an extent, touches on some of the issues we've talked about here today, so... tread lightly, but it's an excellent show if you can get through it without too much triggers.
Well, Sarah, I'm so happy to have known you. You're a beautiful, amazing person, and I think you bring light to every room you walk in, and you've brought so much to my life, and for that, thank you, and thanks for joining me and bearing your soul and having the strength and the power and the ability to be vulnerable. Not everyone can say that they can do what you've done here today, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's crazy because I know that not very many people will watch this, and who knows, maybe more people than we think will watch it, but if anything, I just really hope that telling my story has helped people understand that you don't have to go through everything alone, and, a little kindness goes a long way. You never know what's going on behind closed doors.
I can't think of a better way to end that. All right. Thanks, Sarah. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.